What if I told you the courtroom didn't just explode, it erupted? What if I told you that in front of a stunned jury, a furious Doug Christie, and an audience that couldn't breathe, Chris Webber stood up, pointed across the room and said, "Jackie's been lying for over 2 decades, and I've got the receipts to prove it." Yeah, you're not dreaming, because what went down inside that courtroom isn't just reality TV level chaos. This is betrayal so personal, so nuclear, it's got the entire internet asking, did Jackie ever love Doug at all, or was he just her cover story? We're talking DNA confirmations, leaked hotel records, and under oath, Chris Webber just detailed the real story behind his relationship with Jackie Christie, and it's not PG. The courtroom froze. Jackie cracked. Doug looked like a man who just realized he'd built his legacy on a lie. So what exactly did Chris reveal? Why is Jackie refusing to testify? And how deep does this twisted scandal go? Buckle up, because this trial just turned into a demolition. The courtroom was dead silent until Chris Webber walked in. Not with an attorney, not with a handler, not even with a shred of hesitation. He walked in like a man ready to blow up 20 years of lies with a single breath. And sitting across from him, Doug Christie. Tight jaw, clenched fists, eyes locked. And Jackie? Let's just say she wasn't ready. Let's rewind. Doug Christie's trial was never supposed to go this far. What started as a courtroom battle over financial discrepancies and a violent outburst suddenly spiraled into something much uglier, something buried deep in the past. This wasn't just about an assault charge anymore. This was about truth, paternity, deception, legacy. See, once the sex tape of Jackie and Chris Webber leaked, things started to crack. But when Doug demanded a DNA test on Chantel, Jackie's daughter, and the results showed a match with Chris Webber, that wasn't just a crack in the foundation. That was a full-blown collapse. So now, in front of cameras, lawyers, and a nation glued to every second, Chris Webber was called to testify. And what he said sent shockwaves across the basketball world and far beyond. "I didn't want to be here," Chris said, voice steady, eyes locked on Jackie. "But I'm tired of being the villain in someone else's fantasy. The truth? Jackie and I were together. We were real. And Chantel? I always suspected she was mine." The courtroom gasped. But here's where it gets worse. Chris didn't just stop there. He pulled out a folder, not just any folder. A manila folder of doom, packed with handwritten letters, faded photos, and wait for it, ultrasound appointment records with his name signed as the emergency contact. Doug stood up. The bailiff had to tell him to sit back down. Jackie's attorney looked like he'd swallowed a stapler. But Chris wasn't done. He turned to the jury. "For years, I stayed quiet. I didn't want to ruin Doug's image or Jackie's fairy tale. But when you find out your own daughter was raised under another man's roof and he never even knew..." He paused. Let it hang. Someone had to say it. And just like that, the courtroom changed forever. Reporters outside were losing their minds. TMZ was already pushing out their 5th update of the hour. Twitter? A funeral home for Jackie's credibility. And Doug? His lawyers started whispering behind their laptops, probably wondering how they were going to spin this tidal wave of mess. Let's break this down. Because what Chris exposed in court wasn't just personal. It hinted at something much darker. Turns out, Jackie had allegedly told Chris not to get involved, that she'd take care of everything. That Doug could give the baby the kind of life she needed. She played both men, one for emotional stability, the other for legacy. And Chris? He stayed silent. Until now. The evidence wasn't just 1 or 2 love notes. It was a full binder of receipts, trips they'd taken, hotels they stayed at under fake names. One handwritten note from Jackie even read, "If this ever gets out, I'll lose everything. But I can't lose you." Well, now she's lost both. Doug didn't just look betrayed. He looked haunted. As if every memory he had with Chantel, every school recital, every birthday, every proud dad moment, had been erased with a single DNA result. And it gets more brutal. Sources close to the court claimed Doug had actually been warned about Jackie and Chris back in the early 2000s, but he dismissed it, said it was jealousy and gossip. And now, that loyalty just cost him everything. Back in court, Jackie was asked if she had anything to say. She shook her head, not once, not twice, but 3 times, refused to testify. Her silence was louder than Chris's entire folder. Outside, the public was going wild. Comment sections were a battleground. I used to respect Jackie, but this is low, even for her. Doug deserves better. He was the only one in that family who kept it real. Because this wasn't just a salacious confession, it was legal dynamite. If Jackie knowingly falsified documents, misled Doug, or hid paternity evidence, that could open the door to perjury, fraud, and a whole separate lawsuit. And guess who's considering it? That's right, Doug. Sources close to him say he's completely devastated, but ready to sue Jackie for emotional damages, deceit, and paternity fraud. And let's be clear, if Doug files, he's not just coming for closure, he's coming for everything. Chris, meanwhile, walked out of court without a word, no press conference, no follow-up interview. Just one sentence muttered under his breath that a lip reader caught on video. "She made me the villain. I'm just giving her the ending she wrote." Boom. Part 1 ends with one final twist. Doug reportedly asked to be alone with Jackie during the recess. 10 minutes. No lawyers, no court staff. When they came out, Jackie was sobbing, mascara ruined, shaking. Doug looked calm. Too calm. No one knows what he said, but insiders believe it might have been his final goodbye. And just like that, everything Jackie built, her image, her marriage, her motherhood fairy tale, was dangling by a thread. The courtroom was frozen, cameras rolling, reporters leaning forward. Even the judge gripping his gavel a little tighter. Chris Webber adjusted his tie, took a breath, and then detonated the courtroom with a sentence no one saw coming. Jackie Christie wasn't just my friend, she was my lover, and for a long time, my secret. You could have heard a pin drop if it weren't for the collective gasp from the audience. Doug's face contorted like someone had just ripped the air out of his lungs. Jackie, she didn't even blink. She just looked down, unmoving, as if she knew this day was always coming. And then Chris pulled out the bombshell, a grainy, time-stamped photo, a hotel. Doug Christie, who had sat stoic through hours of testimony, finally cracked. A single tear dropped down his cheek. His hand tightened into a fist on the table. Even the court sketch artist paused, stunned by the rawness of the moment. Chris wasn't done. He looked straight at Doug and said, "You raised her like she was yours. But you and I both know now she never was." And just like that, the DNA test was officially confirmed. Chantel, biologically, she was Chris Webber's daughter, not Doug's. The fallout was nuclear. Outside the courthouse, protesters rallied with handmade signs. "Free Doug. Jackie lied." "Who's the real father?" trended on Twitter. VH1's social media team went silent. Jackie's brand deals started vanishing one by one. Skincare, fashion, even her limited edition wine line dropped her like a hot brick. And then came the most surreal twist yet. Doug's legal team submitted an emergency motion. Why? Because according to newly leaked audio recordings, Jackie allegedly knew about Chantel's real parentage for years. And worse, she may have blackmailed Chris Webber into staying silent to protect her basketball wives image. Sources claim Jackie had dirt on Chris's own brand endorsements and leveraged them as hush tokens. A private investigator even alleged she forged signatures on early school documents to ensure Doug remained legally listed as the father. Chris testified under oath that he had tried to come forward before. But according to him, "Jackie promised me it would destroy everyone. I believed her." Doug, now visibly crumbling in real time, requested a recess, but the judge denied it. "You wanted the truth," she said sternly. "Now sit with it." The courtroom shifted. You could feel the power dynamic swing hard. Jackie, once the queen pin of emotional dominance, now sat hunched. The energy around her? Different. Even her own daughter Chantel looked away, refusing to make eye contact. Then it got worse. Chantel was called to the stand, and what she said next shattered whatever pieces of the family illusion still remained. She started soft. "I love my mum. I always have, but..." And her voice cracked. "I always felt something wasn't right." She talked about inconsistencies, why she never looked like Doug, why Jackie would go silent when Chris's name came up, and why, at age 14, she found an old letter in her mother's drawer with Chris's name signed at the bottom. The courtroom was spellbound. Jackie, silent, Doug, crushed. And then came the final blow of the day. Chantel took out a folded piece of paper from her jacket pocket. The judge allowed it to be entered into evidence. What was it? A birthday card from Chris, dated years ago. It read, "To my daughter, I'm sorry I can't be in your life the way I want, but I'm always watching, always here. Dad." Boom. Even the stenographer choked up. Outside the courthouse, chaos erupted. Reporters shoved microphones in every direction. Jackie's PR rep had quit mid-testimony. Doug's lawyer gave a press conference saying they were evaluating all civil and criminal options. And Chris Webber, quiet, cold, collected, he got into a black SUV.